Hello, I'm Aanika and I'm from grade 11 from Oberoi International School in Mumbai. And today I'm going to be talking about bioacoustics in the marine environment and what it means for marine conservation in the future. So I'd like to start off with this quote. 95% of the ocean is yet to be discovered and only 3% of it is protected. I just want everyone to think about this for a second, that we've only discovered 5% of the ocean so far. And out of our hundreds of years of discovery and attempts at conservation, only 3% of it has been effectively protected so far. So that definitely raises questions about which technologies are better to aid these species and which can help understand their communications and how they talk to each other underwater. So marine bioacoustics focuses on one thing, which is animal communication underwater. So that's one thing that humans haven't been knowing about for a very long time. That species called as cetaceans, which is like an order of dolphins, whales, narwhals, belugas, and sharks. They have this underwater signal called an acoustic signal where they release vibrations and they echo off of a surface, and that's called acoustic signals. These have been used for millions of years, but we're now just realizing that animals have been communicating with each other with different frequencies, such as clicking, drumming, and humming sounds. And this is something that's definitely unique from other species on land. And it differs from animals. That's something that we've discovered through bioacoustics. And when these different sounds are put together, they're almost like how humans would make songs, and like animals would sing songs to each other to communicate certain ideas, such as if prey is coming close and they have to take shelter. And using this technology, which I'll explain on the next slide, it's definitely become much easier for us to understand exactly what these mean. Yeah, so now I'll explain what marine bioacoustics is. On the left, I've added these two technologies. One of it's on land and it's called passive acoustic monitoring, and the other one is underwater hydrophones. So these recorders are planted in an open environment, and the reason why they're so effective is because there's no human interaction with the environment. Think about anthropogenic impact on the environment. It's one of the biggest causes of why we have climate change, melting ice caps, and so many other issues that also that aren't related to the marine environment. And that's why it's been so effective so far, because you leave a recorder out in the open environment and it's able to record and sense even the smallest, the most minuscule of sounds and record them onto a graph, which you can see on the right side, that translates the different frequencies, the different noises at different time periods from that device. So it makes it easier for humans to understand the differentiation between different species. For example, one animal will have a different sound from the other, so they can understand that this specific reason is why their communications are different. Or if some animal sounds different from the other, maybe they can identify new species. And this is definitely an upcoming field that has helped us identify different species and different landscapes. So there's underwater hydrophones, to be specific, with the marine environment, and you kind of place them like how you would buoys on a beach, and they have these vibrations that deploy throughout the entire ocean, and they can span thousands of kilometers because it's designed to record migration patterns over long periods of time. When it's recorded, humans take it into to the lab and transport it into a device and map it on. Then I've also put another image of how passive acoustic monitoring works, like number one, deployment. Then number two, the vibrations are recorded. Then number three, it takes time for that sound to recover onto a new device because it's just so different from what we hear every day. And yeah, it's just really interesting to understand how communications happen even underwater and how collaboration and other things, maybe even personality traits, can come up for marine animals. Sorry. So, how does it aid in marine conservation? Now, even though it's an upcoming field and only got introduced in around the 1920s, it first of all helps distinguish and identify new animal species because of something called echolocation. And echolocation is the ability of an animal to produce its own sound for itself. Like, for example, how I'm speaking right now, I have my own vocal cords which help me speak. But animals underwater have gills, they have fins and other organs which help them perform different activities. So by tracking that down and distinguishing the different noises they hear maybe at different times, it helps identify new animal species. And that's definitely one step closer to conservation, because when you identify new species, you can see how to solve endangerment, you can see how to protect this new species. And a lot of other questions just come up when you identify something that's completely different and hasn't been introduced to us yet. The next one is how it tracks the surrounding landscape. So not only does it record the noises of animals underwater under the cetacean species, it also records algae, the cracking of coral, because corals are animals as well. And that helps us, like over a large period of time, when you map it, it helps us see trends or patterns and see if there's an outlier. If there's an outlier, then what can we do about it? So, for example, if one noise is larger than it usually is, maybe there's something that's hindering it, or human activity up above that's been hindering that in the environment. And that change in the environment over time is what can help us understand how to put human restrictions. Another thing that's really important in bioacoustics is how to distinguish human noise versus animal noise, because in a lot of research projects about marine bioacoustics, sometimes the main noise that was recorded were boats, tourists, and fisheries from up above. And it's really important to set limitations on the amount of noise they cause, because there's been research on how that makes animals less happy and how they scatter into different parts of the world um, because of that activity. And that might actually make it a worse spot for fishing. And the last one is it maps out different migration routes and understands different behaviors. And I put a whale beneath this one because there's a famous research project in marine bioacoustics in the Northern Pacific Ocean, where they mapped out the whale migration routes over thousands of kilometers over the last 10 years. And I've been seeing at which time of the year they go to different parts of the sea. So they noticed something strange, that they can't necessarily put a pinpoint on where exactly they go. At different times of the year, they just scatter around into different places. But one thing is certain, that they travel in groups. So one conclusion that can be made from this is that they're extremely social creatures, and human like activity has definitely impacted the way that they're less organized in their migration, and helps us understand just the mapping out the routes of where they go. So you basically have like a map of the ocean, and it's just easier to see where we can deploy different conservation methods. So yeah. I'd like to end off with another quote from my favorite conservationist, David Attenborough. He's well known for his Netflix series about and National Geographic series about conservation. But one thing that was notable and is also very close to my heart as well, because I've grown up snorkeling and diving in the Maldives my whole life, and I also did conservation projects in Mumbai and Greece. So that's definitely something that's close to my heart, is to about raise awareness about marine conservation. And yeah, I just feel like this quote really resonates. It says, "Nowhere is more powerful and unforgiving, yet more beautiful and endlessly fascinating than the ocean." It explains how the ocean is so vast, yet it's so intricate, and it's so similar to the life that we have on Earth. But still, over these hundreds of years that we've been discovering it for, we still haven't found that one thing that has helped us achieve total peace underwater. So I think it's up to everyone to like make an effort and start, like maybe even at your own house, if you can help reduce marine pollution or read up more about marine bioacoustics, that would mean a lot to marine conservationists around the world. So yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Aanika. Opening up for questions to the audience.
Interrupt you.
Sorry, I was just curious. It may be a short question. I was curious, how do people, when they are trying to identify a new species from the sounds, how are they able to tell if it's a new species or if it's just an individual? As you mentioned, there's also the possibility of individuals making their particular sounds, and I thought that was really interesting. Do you know anything about where the boundary lies between?
Yeah, so I got that from a case study article, and it basically just talks about how it's measured in decibels. So decibels are a large range and they have different frequencies, and the frequencies underwater definitely reach heights or lows that humans can never reach. And over time in other projects, humans have been able to identify what frequencies humans can possibly reach as well, even using boats. So they definitely distinguish the range of the frequency and the amount of time it goes on for. Because, like, for example, you can't have boats operating 24/7. And if you hear that noise going on and on for weeks, then it probably isn't human activity. And also, marine bioacoustics isn't just audio mapping. There's been parts of visual mapping as well, sometimes to identify, at what time usually the boats come in and at what time they should be recording. So there's definitely other tools that have helped identify what's human activity and what's not. And as per the new species, it's definitely a really scientific and intricate explanation, which even I don't know that much in depth right now. But what I can interpret is that I new species wouldn't travel in groups, so they can see the clustering of the noise and they can see the pattern. Because if there's a newer species that hasn't been discovered yet, it definitely hasn't been recorded or observed that people have definitely not observed that type of pattern yet. So maybe they could interpret like what different types of trends they see and separate them out. And that graph I put on one of my slides is called a sonograph, and that visually presents it, and that's also something that helps you see where the outlier is. And yeah, for large scale projects, they definitely have divers and snorkelers and teams who even go underwater while they're recording to see visually exactly what they're recording. Yeah.